that, guys?
Oh, fantastic.
I needed a bit of a wash. Glad to see Twitter didn't bog it, so I was happy.
That's right.
Gotta keep the place neat and tidy.
Yeah, well done.
Hello all, welcome again to our meeting tonight, the September meeting. I hope we're all well and we're proceeding down that merry path of getting over what is around us every day and annoying us to some extent. At least we see a little bit of a glimmer, a little bit of glimmer of hope, and so that's a positive hope, but I hope you're all otherwise coping with it as well as possible. So tonight we have a guest speaker who's going to have a bit of a discussion with us in relation to how to make your travel buddy oven work better. Now, I have to profess I don't have one. I've heard wondrous things about them, so you never know, I might want to buy one. Maybe you want to talk about the current drawer, Simon, as well. But anyway, welcome our guest speaker tonight, Simon. Over to you, Simon. Welcome aboard. Thanks very much.
G'day, everyone. Tonight, I just want to have a quick chat about the Travel Buddy. There will be those of you who are familiar with the Travel Buddy, and the others, of course, will be wanting a Travel Buddy. Why? Because it cooks pies out on the track, basically. Not only that, we can cook a variety of things like a roast or donuts, whatever you like. The problem with the Travel Buddy is it's, in comparison with a, particularly in comparison with a conventional stove, it's pretty slow. But there are ways to make it a little bit faster, and that's what I want to have a look at tonight. So what we've got here is we've got a Travel Buddy, and we've got what's here is called a step-up converter. Now, that can be a step-up or step-down converter. Now, all that does is it takes your car voltage or your battery voltage and outputs a certain voltage which is regulated by this unit out here. That's all it does. We don't worry about what's inside too much. As far as we're concerned, it's full of magic smoke, and you'll know if you break one, all the magic smoke gets let out and she doesn't work anymore. So let's have a look at what it actually does. So, of course, this is all about pies, as far as I'm concerned. Now, I'm a big proponent of the 4 and 20 brand. I'm sure there are others out there that like other sorts of pies, but as far as I'm concerned, it's 4 and 20 or nothing. But if you don't agree with me, put in the comment section, chat section, what pie you like. I'll start sharing the screen now. So there's the pies, as I was talking about before. Now, this is just a graph to show you how the Travel Buddy works in relation to the time and depending on the voltage you're putting in. So this is on battery, and what I mean by on battery is your standard AGM that you'll find under most four-wheel drives who aren't lithium. Then we've got a 13.8 volt regulated one here. That's a little bit higher, or equivalent of lithium or driving voltage. Then we've got the 15 volts. So it's only 1.2 volts higher than a lithium or driving voltage. And of course we have driving. So we've got the temperature in 0 to 250 degrees here. And we've got the time in 1 to about 2 hours along the bottom. Okay, so let's have a look. So that blue line there, that is what you get on battery. Now, as you can see here, it slowly creeps up. But if we put 13.8 volt in it, you can see it increases at a greater rate, and it reaches what we call here is hysteresis. So that's when it reaches the maximum temperature on the thermostat and goes up, turns off there, and then turns back on, and then turns off here and turns back on. Okay, so when we put in 15 volts, you can see it's a lot steeper here. So it's heating up a lot quicker. And finally, if we have a look at the driving voltage, well, in the Land Cruiser anyway, it's equivalent of about 13.8 or so. And it's roughly the equivalent of about 13.8 volt regulated power supply. And what we can see here, this is just on preheat, is the time. So 80 minutes. So that's over an hour, getting on for an hour and a half to preheat on an AGM battery. That's when you're parked up at night time. 13.8, that's close to around the sort of voltage you'll see with lithium. substantially less, 48 minutes. And then on 15 volts, we cut down again substantially down to 36 minutes. So you see a big difference in time going from 13.8 or lithium voltage or thereabouts onto the 15 volt regulated voltage supply. Okay, so on to the pies. Now, of course, we must have hot pies. Now, they tell me that the optimum temperature for a pie is 74 degrees Celsius internal. That's what my researchers told me. That's a piping hot pie. So that's what I did. I stuck a thermocouple probe. Actually, I had to drill a frozen pie to stick a probe in it. And that was my mark. That was what I wanted to get up to and compare the time differences between the different voltages that I could feed the Travel Buddy. Okay, so firstly, that is the 15 volt oven temperature. So that's just the oven temperature there. Of course, when you open up the door, it drops significantly. When people tell you don't open up the door on the oven to check what's inside because you'll lose all the temperature in there, they're not kidding. It certainly drops off. And this is our pie temperature on 15 volts. Now, it took 49 minutes to reach an internal temperature of 74 degrees Celsius. And that's on 15 volts. But when we did the 13.8 volt, that's the oven temperature. You can see it didn't maintain temperature quite as well, didn't recover quite as quickly, even though we started at roughly the same point. And when we put in the pie at 13.8 volts, we had a time of 77 minutes. Now that's a 57% improvement. Now, you may well be saying to yourself, okay, so it's quicker, but it's obviously burning through more power. It is, but wait a moment. I'll show you where that comes in now. So we got a 13.8 volt, and this is on the preheat only, and we're using watt hours here so we can do a decent comparison. It's very close to amp hours. It's actually amp hours times the voltage. At 13.8 volts, we used 138 watt hours. Now, obviously, less is better because it's sucking less of your capacity out of your battery. Now, on 15 volts, 129 watt hours. And that's a 7% improvement. So it's a little bit more efficient, but not substantially. Let's have a look at the 4 pies. So again, watt hours, 13.8 and 15 volts. On 13.8 volts, 193 watt hours. On 15 volts, 129 watt hours. And that is a 50% improvement. So that's 50% more efficient by using a slightly higher voltage. And that's a substantial saving in anyone's books. Okay. Now, when we combine the two, of course, you have to preheat your oven in order to cook your pies. So on 13.8 volts, we use a total of 331 watt hours. And on 15 volts, we use a total of 275 watt hours. So again, that's a 20% overall improvement. Not only did you cook your pies better and faster, but you saved battery capacity, a 20% saving in battery capacity by going with a slightly higher voltage, by using that step up that I showed you in the first screen. Anyway, so what's the magic here? What's happening? So you might have heard of voltage, resistance, and current. Now, this will be a Cliff Notes version, okay? I'm not intending on turning anyone into an electrician or an electronics engineer in here, but basically, we got voltage, resistance, and current. Now, voltage is the pressure in the pipe. That's the little fella there that he's pushing our little amp there. Now, our amp is equivalent in a hose to the diameter of the pipe. So a larger diameter hose will be able to flow more water, and it's the same thing with amperage. And resistance, as you can see here, he's pulling on the lasso here. That's the amount of restriction, how much it's resisting the flow of electricity. Now, there's a thing called Ohm's law. I'm sure everyone who's done probably year 11 or year 12 physics will be familiar with it and probably didn't like it very much. But it's actually quite handy. It's one of those handy ones. It's like Pythagoras for working out the square when you're building something, the 3, 4, 5 triangle. It's one of those really handy ones. Anyway, Ohm's law says the voltage equals the amperage times the resistance. Okay, but if we transpose that, or just move it around a little bit, we can also say the amperage equals the voltage divided by the resistance. And that's why we use this triangle. We can easily transpose it from one form to the other. Now, if we plug all the figures in at 13.8 volt, we get 10.5 amps. It runs 10.5 amps. And the wattage is 149 watts. But if we're at 15 volts, yes, it draws more amperage, and it also produces more wattage, of course, up to 172 roughly watts. And that's 15.6% more. So you are drawing more wattage or amperage from your battery, but because it's a substantially shorter amount of time, that's where you're saving the battery capacity. It's really transformed the way I use the Travel Buddy. I used to think, oh, geez, okay, I got to put it. It was basically after I was leaving in the morning, I was starting to warm up the Travel Buddy just to get the bloody thing up to temperature. But now with the 15 volt step up, and you can pick them up reasonably cheaply. It depends on the type of step up. When you get them for the Travel Buddy, not only that, you can get them for the larger one, like the Big Bertha with the twin elements. They're just absolutely fantastic. So what all that means is, so your Travel Buddy plus your step-up converter here, and they're available on eBay, or the usual people. It equals faster cooking times, but not only that, less battery usage as well. Now, just as an extra little tidbit, I've got a Engel 75 combi. It's a very large fridge freezer. And I thought to myself, well, I wonder if a step-up converter, and I've got a 13.8 volt, would do anything to the performance of the fridge. And it actually did. It substantially improved the performance of the fridge. I was really quite amazed, but it did chew through more battery. So now one of those is connected to my fridge and another one is connected to the Travel Buddy. And it hasn't transformed the use of the fridge. It's better, and especially in hotter temperatures, but it has absolutely transformed the Travel Buddy. Those of you who use a Travel Buddy, and that's regardless of whether it's lithium or not, think about grabbing yourself one of these, because it'll turn that little slowish oven into something you actually want to use. Anyway, guys, that's it. Now, if you'd like to ask any questions, by all means, hit me up in the chat section, and I'll have a look at it, and I'll see if I can answer those questions in the chat section. All right, thanks for that. Thanks for sticking with me through that. If you've got any questions, like I said, back in the chat section or back to you, Ian. Thanks, mate.
Yeah, look, whilst you're on that, Simon, we've just got a couple of questions. One is, what is the efficiency of the inverter?
The step-up converter is, depending on the model and the voltage, it was around about, I measured in between 94 and 96% efficient. So they're very efficient, surprisingly efficient, actually.
Okay, and somebody's asking how much is the step-up converter cost approximately?
Okay, so there's two main sorts of step-up converters. There's the one that you run just on battery when you're parked up at night and you have to physically plug it in, plug it out. They're a little bit cheaper. You can pick them up on eBay for about $40 or $50. And then you can get the one with a wider input voltage range, so you don't have to disconnect it when you're actually driving. It's happy to output the voltage at driving voltage of 14.5 volts or thereabouts, and they're $70 or $80.
I like your comments about the 4 and 20 pies. They're still my favourite.
They're certainly mine as well, mate.
Unless I can buy a scallop pie down at Lakes Entrance, sorry, it eats all over it. But anyway, another one here is Ian Wells making a statement, definitely worth submitting this groundbreaking research for your PhD. Where do you go to get the Travel Buddy is the question.
Okay, so the Travel Buddy, the main one, the originator, not the imitator, is made in Bendigo in Victoria. and I've tested the Travel Buddy versus the Road Chef at the time was the only other available option. And there are some slight differences. Have a look on the YouTube channel. There's a comparison there, and we also pulled them apart as well. There's also the Kick-Ass. Now, I haven't used the Kick-Ass. I think it's got a little bit of extra wattage, the Kick-Ass version. And, of course, there's a new one around, which is the Big Bertha. That's a completely different beast. So it pulls about 20 amps or so out of a standard battery. You really need with a Big Bertha, you either really need to be driving or you need a substantial lithium setup to run them, because they do draw 20 amps.
And Adriano Denny's making a statement. A nice salami and sun-dried panini equals 0 watts hours, easy.
I'll be there soon, mate.
I'll tell you what, the only thing I'll say on that one is when it's a bloody cold day outside, there's nothing better than having something hot.
And in the snow.
Yeah, so Eric Bishop was just asking, yes, but where can a country bumpkin buy one?
Well, I'd suggest probably where not only country bumpkins, but city slickers can buy them from, and that's either AliExpress or eBay. If you're having trouble with the particular model you want, if you have a look on the YouTube channel Lockyards Four-Wheel Driving, there's actually a couple of model numbers you can reference and search on eBay or AliExpress, or even hit me up and I'll sort it out for you. I'll provide you with an eBay link or AliExpress or whatever you like.
Okay. Apparently, also there's a note here that ARB sell them too.
Oh, they're selling the Travel Buddy now.
Well, apparently that's one of our hosts said that, but I don't know who. But anyway, and Eric's just said he's going to give you a call. Okay.
I look forward to it. Yeah, so that's really good that ARB is supporting Australian-built products. So that's really good. Happy about that.
Yeah, and Scotty Hamilton made a comment that I've seen them mounted in a milk crate to allow portability between vehicles.
I actually powered a Travel Buddy with tool batteries, Makita tool batteries, more for a laugh and to see if it would work or not. And it actually works really well. And another mate of mine pointed out to me and showed me a photo that he powered his with an e-bike. He has an e-bike and he used the battery from an e-bike to power his Travel Buddy, and it was in a milk crate. So it was a completely portable setup that didn't need to be plugged in anywhere. Fantastic.
It would certainly depend upon the watt hours provided by the batteries, wouldn't it? So
yeah, well, with the Makita one, I put 4 of the 6 amp hour batteries on it, and it got me through a full preheat and full 4 frozen pies up to 74 degrees Celsius, no problems. But you couldn't do it twice.
There's a message I missed from Michael Johansson. Sorry, Michael, bit going on there. What if you put in the frozen pies at the start? What would be the difference?
Oh, is that sacrilege?
Well, it's true. You buy them frozen in the supermarket, don't you?
Okay, you probably could, but I like my pastry nice and crisp, so I'll stick with preheating the oven first.
Okay, all right. And Eric Bishop made comment, I used to heat my pies by wrapping them in tin foil and leaving them on the exhaust manifold. Yeah, okay, my dad used to do that too. So
I must try that one day, but I think you got a turbocharged car, you might be in a spot of bother.
My dad used to have a special saucepan with 2 pieces of wire that he used to put the lid on, snap it down, and we go for a drive. Oh, look, it was a long time ago. I've never done it myself, but yeah, it was certainly something that we did. We were a big family, quite poor back then, so we did our best. All right, so thanks very much, Simon. We might move on from there. If I see any more questions, I might come back to you.
Thanks.
So with that, the next item on the agenda, slight change there, David. So Rob Laverche is just going to give us an update on the rules. So over to you, Rob.
Cool. I've got a PowerPoint that I'll share, David, so I can probably do that fine, I hope. Yeah, hello, everybody. Yeah, just a quick update on the process of drafting the new club rules. Why are we changing the club rules? So the changes are really needed to reflect how the club operates today. There's also been some changes in laws and how things are, and responsibilities, I guess, of associations, and certainly the I guess the committee has more obligations under law now than before. We need to work on how to improve the club going forward, and that's with some, documenting some processes, some procedures and that sort of thing. We're going to move some of the current bylaws back into the rules, the club rules, and I think members would have seen those changes. So some of them are appropriate to be in the rules, some will be in bylaws or policies going forward. And we need to provide for technology, because I think, unfortunately, and let's hope things change, but right now we are communicating via technology, and we need to make sure that things that the club needs to do are covered by that.
All right, so thanks, Rob, for clarifying that a little bit further. And don't forget, folks, that'll be up on the website for comment soon, in the next few days. So now we're just going to move on with video of the 2020 Kimberley Dust and Corrugations. This video has been edited by Steve McAdam, and it's called Part 1. So over to you to put it up, please. Thanks very much for that. And look, just been keeping a little close watch on things. A fabulous video there, and so always great. Don't forget, if you've got any queries or questions, put them down there on the chat below, or if you're using an iPad or something, the button may be in a slightly different location. Keep an eye out for that. Simon might want to answer these a little later, but Simon, I noticed on Facebook there was a question: what's the advantage of the marine version of the Travel Buddy over the standard model? And Simon Murray asked the question: did you eat the pie after drilling a hole in it? Culinary grade drill bits. Do you want to comment on either of those, Simon?
Yes, I ate the pie. And it tasted fine, and I'm all good. Well, sorry, what was the other question?
There was a question about the marine version of the Travel Buddy.
Right, okay, so there's two main versions of the Travel Buddy, those aren't familiar with it. The one I haven't tested was the marine one. It's larger, it's about twice the size, mainly the width. I think the height and the depth are about the same. And you also don't get a thermostat control on the smaller version. That's only available on the larger version. If you have more than one person, I'd say go with the marine. If it's only for one person, you probably get away with the standard model. But pretty much everybody who has the smaller model has ended up upgrading to the larger model that I know of anyway. So I'd recommend going with the marine. It's not that much bigger.
Okay. And all right, thanks very much, Simon. They're finished with you for now. Thanks. Now with the subcommittee reports. And the first one is the education. Liz Mills. Hello, Liz. Welcome aboard tonight. New background there, I see.
Hi, yes, I wish I was there in amongst the sand dunes again. Great video that reminds us of a trip we did in 2005. So it was lovely to see it again. And Ken, just think of it as being corrugations. Moving on. A few updates now due to COVID. Obviously, we had to change the four-wheel drive maintenance course, and that's now going to be held on Saturday the 4th and Sunday the 5th of December. Also, the chainsaw course had to be changed again. So that one is also being run on the 4th and 5th of December. We've got plenty of space for the two courses. Unfortunately, December I don't like using because of December rush, but we don't have much choice this year. And I know people were keen to do it this year rather than waiting until next year. So we've got those two courses running then. And David's tyre repair course, obviously that one's also had to be changed as well. So that is now, looks like it's running on the 11th and 12th of December. I think I've seen 8 out of the 12 people have got back and said they're quite happy to do it on that date. So I will be getting back to everybody once I've cleared it all with David again, and hopefully that will be run on the 11th and the 12th of December. So we're going to have a busy time in the beginning of December in the new building. Now, I've started looking at a photography course again. Ingrid and Les did one last March, and it was very popular, and it was a very professional course. So I will be putting up the dates of the 4th, 5th, 6th of March next year for them. So just look out for advertising on that a little bit later. It was a very popular course last year, and they only take about 8 people on that because they'd like to have a lot more time on one-on-ones with people. So if you're interested in it, get onto it quickly when it's advertised. First aid course, I've still to get some dates from James on that, so just watch out for the advertising for that. Now, just a bit different, the naming competition for the new building. You've got to get the names in by this Friday. You're allowed up to 3 suggestions, so get those in. And once they're all in, what the committee will do is they will do a poll for the members to vote on which name they like the best. And then that will be announced at the grand opening, hopefully in November. The grand opening, well, we're still working on it, hoping that in November it will be able to be run. We do have an alternative date if by any chance that can't happen. And we're going to be looking at, I think it's the Saturday, the 12th of February, if something happens, and we'll have to take it there. But we are working hard to bring it to you in November. Now, off-road vehicles, we're having like the fit out session at the grand opening as well. Now, the idea of this is for new members and people who are setting up their vehicles to do some outback driving. We're going to get as many people from the club who have already got their vehicles set up for outback travel, so that they can open them up and show them to all the newer members and give you some good ideas of what they've done, why they've done it. So what I'm asking is, all those who have got their vehicles set up, could you please email me at cruisers@bigpond.net.au and just let me know if you're able to come. So I've got some idea of how many people we've got showing their vehicles at the grand opening day. And new members, make the most of this, because you can get a lot of advice from people who have travelled over the last few years and know what works and what doesn't. Now, for the catering part of that day, we do ask people to book in on the event on the net. Usually when you're going up to Yark, you book through the Yark normal booking. But with this, we need everybody on the event. So partners, children, everybody. So we know what sort of numbers we're looking at for catering for lunch. So the lunch that day, well, we'll start that day at 10 a.m. and the lunch will be around about 1 o'clock. There'll be kids' activities throughout the day, a few games and things for them to play. And then the grand opening will be about 3 o'clock. So it should be a lovely day. And if you're going to stay for the whole weekend, that's fine. But you may need to just book in through the Yark booking system if you are staying for days prior or days after. So just remember that. So I think that's probably about all I've got. Just look out for any events and things on the net. And if you've got any queries, please just email me on education. Thank you very much, and hand over to Ian.
Okay, so thank you, Liz. We'll now move on to driver training, Chris Treble.
Yeah, well, thanks, Ian. Good evening, everyone. Listen, we've been a little bit grounded because of the COVID. Unfortunately, our August session up at Yark, the practical session on the weekend, that was cancelled. We had 10 participants that were due to attend, but actually couldn't make it because it was cancelled. So what I've done, we've carried that over to the next month, and I've picked up another 5. We only had 5 for the theory training. So we're leading up to the 2nd and 3rd of October, where we had potential of 15 people plus the 5 instructors to go up there, total of 20. However, the way it's looking at the moment, I mean, that's going to be cancelled too, because Melbourne, the majority of the participants are from Melbourne Metro. So it looks like our next, our September DA practical is not going to proceed.
With that, now we just quickly move on. Eric Bishop, can you do MPB and then four-wheel drive Vic if you've got any comments? Over to you, Eric.
Good evening, folks. This is a wonderful time we're having at the moment. The weather's fantastic. The birds are singing. The sun's shining. Just somewhere else, it seems, at the moment. With the MPB, Sandra mentioned before the documentation we got from the building surveyor. The MPB administrative process is now over. We have a building permit signed off. So the building is 100% ours, nothing more to do. The council's planning permit, building permit, everything's signed off by the building surveyor. So we can use it to our delight from here on in. With Four-Wheel Drive Victoria, the elections for the committee are in November, and I know a notice went out to all the clubs to identify who their delegates are, because it looks like the AGM for Four-Wheel Drive Victoria is going to be held on Zoom. That's what we're planning to do. We're also planning to have it face-to-face, but we're also having it available on Zoom in case that's the only option we have available. And being that there's 80 odd clubs associated with Four-Wheel Drive Victoria. It might be the first time they have, you know, a fairly large group of delegates turning up to vote on Zoom. Anyway, that's it, Ian.
So with that, we're now going to move on to TLCC Western Australia 2022 gathering, and John Mills, I think, there he is. Hello, John. Over to you.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to lockdown yet again. We'll get out of it eventually. I would just like to say that, well, I haven't got much to say in reality. That's unusual for me, I know. But I will put up next month on Wild Apricot an invitation for those that would like to show interest in going. The West Australians are quite keen to get some indication of numbers of how many they need to cater for. And so I'll put that up next month. And so no obligation, just give me an indication whether you want to go. As we get further down the track and we get more information in the West, then I'll start sending out to those people who showed an interest a form to register to go to the West. Looking at the video tonight and going up through the Kimberley, what a fantastic way to get to Margaret River. Go through the Kimberley, come down the West Coast, Carragini, etc., etc., etc. Lots of things to see in the West. Make it your long trip, make it the trip of a lifetime, and end up at the gathering to top it all off.
Thank you, John, again for a great update. And right, so we'll move on now with our reports. Alison, over to you for a Geelong report.
Thank you, Ian. Well, we didn't have a meeting in September because we were in lockdown, and then we've come out of lockdown and we had a lovely brunch on the weekend and immediately back in lockdown. So we're back in with you. Geelong and the Surf Coast are in lockdown for a week or more. So we may or may not have an October meeting. Hopefully we'll be out and we can have a meeting. We've got a few activities planned for the rest of the year. November, we're having a day down behind Aries with some mountain bike and some bushwalks. Marcus is taking some mountain bikes and Betty's taking some bushwalks. And then a barbecue lunch and a few tracks on the way home. In December, we're having our Christmas barbecue at the Yuyangs. It's sunset at Big Rock, so we'll have some beautiful views of the sunset. We'll meet there about 3:30, 4 o'clock, and lots of opportunities for mountain bike and lots of nice short walking tracks as well. And in December, we're going to be doing some barefoot bowls at the North Geelong Bowling Club, and everyone's welcome to join us for all of those. And the bowling evening or afternoon will also include a dinner. So that's all from us, and hopefully we're out of lockdown and you are too, but all we can say is get vaccinated and hopefully keep safe. Thank you.
We'll move on now to yacht management. Over to you, Brian Stewart.
Okay, good evening, everybody. Thanks, Ian. Yeah, another busy night here. We just hope that we can have busy weekends, but our weekend coming up for Yark has been cancelled once more. So all we can do is hope for October. And we've moved the October one back to its normal position, which is the 22nd, 23rd of the 23rd, 24th of October, which was to be the Cruisacana weekend. And it gives us an extra week, possibly, if we come out of lockdown. There's plenty of things to do up there once we get back up there. I'm sure the grass has been growing like crazy. Alison was up there a few days ago. She made a trip up there to water the plants that she and a small group of other members had planted the month before. And she put some photos up on Facebook, which gives us a pretty good idea of how things are growing up there. And it's looking pretty good. That's about it for me.
Okay, that's it. Thank you so much, Brian. And hopefully we'll get to start to see something soon. We move on. Thanks, Brian, again, and to your crew. Okay, over to you, Sandra. Anything to report?
Special events, fingers crossed. The National 4x4 show will be the 26th to the 28th of November. And I will be calling for helpers, fingers crossed again. I hope I can get a lot of people who will offer assistance to set up be on the stand and dismantle when it's over. I'm just keeping moving. All we can do. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow or the next day, but at this point in time, that's the dates, the 26th to the 28th of November. Thank you.
Next, we'll go to our trip convener, Viv. So over to you, Viv.
No worries. Thank you. First off, I'd like to say what a great job Steve did on his videos. And I'd also like to thank him for all the work he's done throughout the year. He and Laurie and I loved making them, and we hope we get more trips and more photos and videos to make more for you. We've got a couple of trips still listed with vacancies in November. Whether they go ahead or not, again, we don't know, but your trip leaders will be in touch with you and give you the details of any changes. Dulcie's got a Jericho working bee in midweek. It's a great week to do things. We're going, COVID permitting, and she's got a special surprise activity happening, but you won't know about it unless you go. Next year, we've got some desert trips being run by Warren and Anita, the Rig Road and Desert Adventures, and there's vacancies left on those. Put your name down if you'd like to go. And Rob Logie's got a Pyrenees trip happening as soon as lockdown's over. So keep your eyes on the website and Weekend Wrap. And that's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Viv. And I was just going to say, that's a lovely photo you got in the background. You haven't got an after shot of the bush of that campfire there, have you?
I have, but I'd have to find it.
Looks like a decent, lovely little pile of twigs and
Oh, they were on, yeah, they were on the outside of the fire. They weren't ready to burn or fly.
Okay, sorry. It certainly looked like they were in the fire. I can now see there's another one behind it. Oh, yeah. Golly, I was going to say, golly, if you light that one up, you certainly would have to move a few chairs back. All right.
You need a lot of water around too. Put it out, got out of control.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. All right. Okay, so with that, we're going to run part 2 of the video 2020 Kimberley Dust and Corrugations, edited by Steve McAdam. This is part 2. And don't forget, if you've got any queries or questions or stuff, please click that button below, the chat button, and pop them on there, and we'll get to them if time permits. All right, folks, over to the video.
Jump under your shirt and run up your shirt in a minute.
For those who are wondering, the lookout point that we're looking at over Fort Warrender.
No, it's a lot bigger than that little thing. Hello, Michael. They put the rock in the middle, eh? Behave yourself.
I just ran up a hill. Anyone got a deep pip?
In 33-degree heat.
So it's been scoured around here. Just watch that ledge on the front end. Go on.
Wouldn't be the first time I've bulldozed my way up a ledge.
I'm just sitting here. I got time. It's clear to see from up here. The world seems small. We can sit together. It's so beautiful. You and me. We meant to be in the great outdoors, forever free.
Pretty close, isn't it? It's only about 3-4 metres.
Somebody I know there. Oh, yeah, I'm sure. I went and got some better shoes on.
To see the truth around you. From a distance you can tell. Meant to be in the great outdoors, forever free.
What a fabulous video it is, and well done, Steve. And yes, we've got Warren's passing on a comment 10 out of 10 for that. So, and Matt Lily's made a comment, great video tonight. It was an absolutely sensational video, fabulous colours and amazing scenery. And I note in the credits there, you put a note to say the video was and photography was all provided by the participants. So amazing, just amazing details and shots. They're a really good and really great video. So thanks again, Steve, for putting that together and making it available for us to use at this meeting tonight. So with that, we'll just move on to our webmaster, Laurie. You got anything for us tonight?
Yes, I want to say great video, Steve. Yes, Steve was put under the pump because initially he gave me those videos as 4 separate videos, and I said, can you try and make it 2? So run 2 in together and then we can have 2 sections. And I said, look, I can do it if you like. If you Steve said, no, I'll do it. And yesterday morning he jumped straight in and he fixed it all up. And what you saw, he did all day yesterday, got to me last night and uploaded it. And yeah, well done, Steve. Good effort. I really appreciate that. Webmaster, yeah, we need to get people when they, I know it's a little bit about the meeting, but when people want to talk, I notice some people are actually putting their hand up. I can tell you now, it's very hard to see when people put their hands up. It's far easier, as Ian said, get on chat, put a note that I'd like to talk about so-and-so. And if we need to talk to you, yeah, we can bring you in and you can actually be heard speaking, but we need to know that you want to talk rather than just put your hand up, because it is very hard seeing so many screens. We see all the panelists and people hands going across, and it's extremely hard to pick up. So try and help us by using the chat page. Put your comment up there. Ian looks down the chat page all the time, and he'll pick you up straight away if you've got something to say. And he was talking about earlier about making it a two-way thing, getting people to talk. So that's what it's about. Just on numbers, I always like to talk about how we're going tonight. We actually had 41 registered for the meeting tonight. I actually asked an extra question this month. I said, could you please tell me if your partner's going to be watching the meeting with you? And that was really good, because I always assumed about half of you probably had your partners come along, but it's actually showing us that in fact it's really more like about 90–95% of you have partners. Scott Wentworth made a comment that his wife may be watching, but he's not sure. I thought that was quite interesting, Scott. Quite interesting comment. Over on Facebook, we peaked about 17. So using the same sort of scenario that their partners are watching with them, then we're probably looking about 110, and then on top of that we've got our 16 panelists, so we've got 126, 125, 126. That's pretty good for a monthly meeting. That's going pretty well. As I say, the numbers are probably higher than we expected, because I say partners are actually sitting there watching and enjoying the meeting. So as you can see, I'm still out and about. I'm still up in sunny Queensland. That picture you're seeing at the background is actually the Warrumbungle, but anyway, not going to New South Wales because of COVID. But we are sadly going to have to leave sunny Queensland this week. It's time to start thinking about heading home. And we actually applied for our permits to enter in South Australia this afternoon, and we're probably going to head over there for a couple of weeks, and then finally make the big decision to cross the border back to lockdown, unfortunately. But hopefully you'll see me in person or on Zoom from my home next month. That's all from me, Ian.
All right, thanks, Laurie, and a really good point there. Just to reiterate, the purpose of that chat button down below, folks, is, click on that if you want to have a say, etc. Time permitting, always, as I said at the beginning of the meeting, we can allow a couple of minutes per member or something if anybody wants to say anything. We are running close. We've got 5 more minutes to go. We've got a couple of more reports to go. And there was just a note from Warren Sprigg about great effort committee. Thank you. Always appreciate some support there. So over now to you, Rob. You're going to just cover off for Forge's report on Cruisacana.
Yep, thanks, Ian. Yeah, Forge sends his apologies. He's got caught up in a business meeting that he couldn't get out of. So I'll just try and read his notes off my phone here, which might be a challenge. So as everyone knows, Cruisacana's cancelled. So we're looking ahead to next year, and as I think John highlighted before, the gathering, the Land Cruiser Club gathering in WA is going to clash with our normal sort of date range in the end of October. So I think a few of us actually want to go to Perth as well. So at this stage, we're looking at running it this is our picture at this point in time, maybe in November 12th and 13th, but obviously that's subject to what else might be going on. So we'll have to firm that up. The other idea that we're exploring is perhaps running an event sometime early next year. So in March, not Cruisacana, not a competition, but perhaps do a mini event for as maybe a bit of a practice. So I certainly know the Cruisacana committee a bit rusty, and some of the marshals and volunteers that come along probably haven't been for a couple of years, or can't have been for a couple of years. Plus we might have some new members. So we thought we might run a mini competition, just a one-day event, one-day get-together, 4 events probably, and we thought we might invite some of the other 4-wheel drive clubs to come and join in. So to do it, we'll need some volunteers. So we'll probably put out what did you call it, Liz? A registration of interest or something? What was it, Liz?
Expressions of interest.
Thank you, Liz. Expressions of interest to see when we pick a date, when it fits in with the calendar, we'll send that out and see how many people are interested in coming. So won't be a big affair, just a mini event, just to, I guess maybe test out a few of our ideas on club rules and stuff. So more on that one. And that's all I have. Thanks, Ian.
Thank you, Rob. And that's probably about as much as I'm going to get to read, because I'm now going to close the meeting. Thank you all. Good night, and take care. Good night.